Good afternoon, everybody in Obsessed Hub. It's Hayley here, and I have an amazing woman here with me today. Woman, that's a terrible thing to say. A young lady, Kerryn Powell. We've literally just been talking off air about all the wonderful things that she does, and we're talking about the power of conversation, especially in business, with an extremely philanthropic vibe. Kerryn, thank you so much for joining us today.
Thank you very much for the pleasure of being here, Hayley. Nice to meet you.
Yeah, you too. And it's quite literally a baptism of fire because I wasn't meant to meet you today.
Well, we'll learn together.
Yeah.
The opportunity was wonderful to be offered, so thank you.
Oh, no, that's okay. I mean, look, in Obsessed, that's what we're talking about. And I actually want to lead in with this because we started Obsessed as a way for people to have conversations and share information in a respectful way. We don't always have to agree with each other, but there's so much value to actually having a good quality conversation so that we can find out more about each other, but more specifically, make sure this is how we work things out, right? Whether I want to continue to speak with you or if I want to do business with you. None of that happens unless you have a conversation. And that's something that you do. You do this as a job.
Yes, I do. For the last 7 years, I've been bringing business owners and professionals together, but conversations are in every part of your life. So it's not just about business. It's about getting to know other people and what makes them tick.
Yeah. And I say it a lot, actually, in Obsessed. You know, a lot of people, especially if you're in business, a lot of people do that whole wham, bam, thank you, ma'am, kind of like I've got branding, marketing, and I just need to look good and then keep showing people my brand, but it's just not the case anymore. People want to have good quality conversations. So how do you encourage that?
Well, at the events I run, we actually play cards. So I created some cards and they direct the conversation and they dig a bit deeper, asking questions about what drives you and what does success look like to you and, you know, what's the biggest challenge you've got in your business. So we make sure that the conversations are purposeful and meaningful and you listen to someone else's response and you go away thinking, gosh, I'm glad I didn't get that card, or I've never thought about that. And that really matters to me and I've never, ever thought about why I do that.
Yeah, but it actually gives you an opportunity, right? So, like, you know how some people like they have an agenda when they start a conversation. A lot of people do, or they have a go-to. You know, it's about the old thing saying, you know, how's the weather? You know, yes. And there are so many more questions that you can ask and get a lot more information, quality information.
Absolutely. Yeah, we've got 153 of them, and when you play it in cards, you don't know which card you're going to get. So it actually puts you on the spot. It is fun. It is fun. So during COVID, I've actually created a game board as well, so you can play it online and find out things about your friends and family that you just may never have known about before.
Yeah, I don't know. If you've been in the Obsessed Hub, you'll see that you'll notice that we ask a lot of questions, and I just because there's so much you can get from just having conversations and asking questions. And you know, like in some of those questions that we've asked, I've known some of these people for years, and I just go, really? I just didn't know that you thought that way.
Yes, I had two business owners sitting at the same table at a dinner and they were like, oh, we're sitting together. And when they played cards, I didn't know about that about you. I never actually knew that. And if the question's right and it's open, you can dig a lot deeper.
Yeah, so we were talking off air because, I want to talk about that at the moment. There's obviously, there's a lot of things going on in the world. We've got COVID and I think there's a general feel and energy in the world that people want to do more. They want to be more philanthropic. And we can't ignore it, can we? I think we're all being forced to consider each other because of what's actually going on. But you've been doing this long before COVID. You do quite a fair bit of philanthropic stuff. So tell me about that.
I'm really driven by why people do what they do, and I always find it amazing that someone can be a builder and someone can be a scientist and someone can be a travel agent, and why are we all so different? So I really like to delve deep into what makes somebody think and what they, what turns their interest level. So I think that, the conversation can just help you to learn so much about yourself and others, and really to help you grow your knowledge and expand your horizons. And so we can start a conversation about business, but then you find out someone's actually on the board of a not-for-profit organisation. Yeah. And then you find out what they actually do. And this actually happened with a couple of organisations that we work quite strongly with. And now it's part of my mission to help build their brand awareness and help them to continue the work that they do.
Do you know, I mean, as you're talking as well, I always think, like, how can people relate to that on a grander scale? Like, as you're talking, I'm thinking Kim Kardashian, and people have a big, huge preconceived idea because she's done an excellent job of branding in a particular industry, but she does incredible amounts of philanthropic work that most people don't even know about.
No. And I think that happens, but I think also there's so many things out there we don't know about. You know, the Start Foundation, Bicycles for Humanity, Urban Lifesavers, they're all organisations I knew nothing about until I started networking and running events and meeting people that are involved with those organisations.
Tell me about the Start Foundation. What is that?
The Start Foundation empower amputees with a sporting dream. And one of the founding directors came along to a co-working day that we met, and I'd never heard of Start Foundation until that time. And they started because Kerryn Harvey was a keen cyclist, and she had a cycling accident and got a bacteria in her arm and had to have her arm and shoulder amputated. So they saw what effect that had on not only on Kerryn but also on their on the family and the friends, and so they started the foundation. And through their foundation, we've worked with them to build their awareness to the YTM community and be able to raise money to help one of their grant recipients to get some running blades. And so she ran 5 kilometres in the Bridge to Brisbane run last year. But when you see photos of children that aren't able to play football because they're missing a limb or, you know, all those sorts of things, I just want to give everybody another leg or give them another arm. So
yeah. And everybody's complaining about certain, and especially now at the moment, people are complaining about what they, you know, first world problems. And it's kind of like, come on, there are always people in not worse off, because in some cases for some of these people it really is just an adjustment, a life adjustment. So, you know,
I think it just helps you keep it in perspective. We actually asked Michelle to speak at the first event a couple of years ago in January and share what Start was about. And the things that we were trying to get over was persistence and commitment and resilience. And the business journey is not easy, but people in life are faced with that, and we're in the middle of that right now. That to get through the troubles and the issues that we've got now, being able to call on those core skills of resilience and commitment and perseverance and falling down and getting up again, they're all things we need to do. And you know, you can choose to just sit down and not get on with it, or you can try to do the best you can.
Yeah,
so they're a really driving force a driving force for keeping things in perspective.
So how do you actually, I mean, obviously the Start Foundation, but you're not actually but you're obviously just a huge advocate for them, and you work with them in some degree?
No, just a supporter of them, but we're also a supporter for Fitted for Work, who help disadvantaged women gain employment. My husband was a mentor with them, and so, you know, my parents divorced when I was in year 12, and my mother was the income earner in the 70s, and that was very unusual. So the the Fitted for Work had a really soft spot for us too, about helping women to be independent financially and look after their family. And so that's another one that we're very support heavily.
I mean, there's so much support now, isn't there, this day and age for any single parent. I mean, it's still very tough. I'm not taking anything away from anybody that's raising that are single parent families, but it would have been infinitely more difficult back then. It would have been.
Yes, it was. And my mother was selling cars, and so she was the first woman in cars as well. So, you know, it's just fantastic. There's organisations there supporting women now, and a lot of people don't know that the great work that they do. And so, years ago, I was in part of a career transition research, and it came out that I would be a good magistrate or a ventriloquist, and I thought that was so funny at the time. But I think I am a ventriloquist, really, because I'm always telling somebody else's story. And the magistrate thing is, I want to be fair, so it should be an even playing field as best we can.
Yeah, because I read that in your description. I was like, what does that mean? Like, I got, like, I would be a good ventriloquist.
I thought it was hilarious at the time. They actually said that it didn't mean that I would be, it meant that I shared similar skills. So,
Can you
I think that,
enlighten me on that? What are the, because literally that was the question in our office. We're like, what are the senior skills? What's the skills that you need?
I think it's about speaking for other people and giving them a voice. And so that's what I like to do.
Wow, I love it. I love it. We get that, totally get that. I get that. I do similar things as well, but we just kind of do it through pictures and messaging and branding. So through my day job. I mean, I do this too, but a day job also.
Oh, there's so many good stories to be told out there. You know, there's so many people doing fantastic things. And I was having a conversation the other day with a woman who runs justpeoples.org, and I've been able to connect her up with another charity that we are involved with called Co-Ground, and they're a perfect match to do some work together. So part of my role, I see, is to be that conduit and to find the right avenue for people to make the impact that they can.
So, I mean, so literally you've got a big pull towards philanthropic work, like humanity work.
I think so, yes.
And it's so, I love this. I mean, this morning, I was with a client this morning, and she, actually, she's here. She's watching. Her name's Jess Clare. I think you know her.
I was talking to her yesterday.
Yeah. She's incredible. And she's got something very similar where she wants to bring all of the people that actually are interested in humanity-based business, you know? Yes. So, and it strikes me as that's you're her people.
We had a very good conversation yesterday. We met on LinkedIn just in the last week, and we shared very many similarities and alignments.
Yeah, no, it's good. It's good when you find your people, right? And again, this comes from the power of conversation.
It does. And it's not until you dig deeper and really understand, because some people, I'm often criticise that I listen a lot and don't necessarily talk a lot, but it's because my mind is like a concept map, and I'm drawing all the links between how I could help this person and who they need to meet. So,
yeah. Well, this is it. So it's not just about conversations. It goes deeper than that, and it comes back down to relationships. And you wrote a book on that. You wrote a book. Tell us.
I wrote a book called 2 Ears, 1 Mouth and a Big Heart, Conversations to Amplify and Inspire. And
I'm so glad. I'm not going to cut you off on this, because I'm actually so glad you articulated it that way. I wrote it down as 1 mouth, 2 ears, 1 eye, 2 ears, and 1 big mouth.
Oh, I'm glad I got that straight for you. So no. So they often talk about when you're networking to use your 2 ears and 1 mouth, but I think you get much more out of it if you emotionally connect as well. And that big heart is really important. So in the book, I share stories of local heroes like the Start Foundation and Urban Lifesavers and Co-Ground, and the conversations that I've had with those founders and what I've learnt from their journey. And once again, just keeping life in perspective and working out a way to be able to help them, and how, sometimes our lot can seem really bad and people have challenges, but they are able to push on and do work for other people. So
I love it. It sounds like a book. Well, how long ago did you write it?
Launched it in May 2019.
Wow. And it's had a great response?
I wrote it a lot for myself, and I've really only started talking about it in the last 6 months, because it's very appropriate for now. It's about how you build a network. It's about the values of a network, and that anything's possible with a supportive network. And, if everybody got on board with COVID and we had that supportive network, we'd all be in a better place. So, people just need to think beyond themselves and to take on an attitude of not what's in it for me, but how can I make a difference? How can I help somebody else?
So what would you like? I mean, say, for instance, like I said to you, Kerryn, I need that. I need to be able to figure out how to have a better network and be able to, because everybody wants to think of themselves. I think that's a human way of being. A lot of people, it's all about self-preservation. How do you get out of that headspace and into a collective way of thinking?
By feeling, I think, and putting yourself in the shoes of somebody else. In the case of Start, I guess I thought, what would it be like to not have your arm or not to have your legs? And when Sarah spoke at the dinner last year, and she'd never jumped. She'd never been able to jump because she didn't have the legs to do it. And, if you sort of think how that would be, or how in Urban Lifesavers and is fighting for the change for defibrillators because her husband had a cardiac arrest and she was left with 6 children. And, people are faced with challenges all the time. And when we think about other people and have a bit of empathy for other people and learn about empathy, and I guess have the heart that you just want to make a difference. And there's a lot of people that want to make a difference.
Yeah, and I think with the vibe of everything,
you have to do a little tiny thing. You don't have to save the world. If everybody did a little tiny thing, and that can be as simple as, in the current circumstances, ringing 5 friends. The phone might never ring for those people. If you have some conversations with people that are by themselves, you can change their day.
Yeah, and that's it. And that is, at the moment, like the vibe and the energy, not just in Australia, but in the world, there seems to be a disconnect, and it's a dangerous space to be in.
And I think online, the funny thing is that I talk about how a lot of relationships have been spoilt by online, but thank goodness we've got it, because it's actually what's keeping us all together at the moment. And we're running online events, and we had a virtual lunch today, and the business owners that came along, they work by themselves. And so it's valuable just to have a conversation and figure that you're not the only one that's feeling this way, that there are other people struggling as well, and that's and sharing ideas about how you can get through those tough moments is really important.
Yeah. At the beginning of COVID, I think when we actually very first kicked off Obsessed Hub, we asked that question, are you reaching in or reaching out? And I think that there are times to reach in, and then there are times where you absolutely must reach out. Because, I get that right now in the environment that we're in, it is all about, we're in like a state of survival. So, and it feels like every man for themselves. So I think your message is probably one of the most important messages that anyone can hear right now.
Well, I think the other thing is that when you reach out, it actually makes you feel better about yourself too, and it takes the focus off yourself. And when you try to help somebody else or give some support, you don't even have to say very much, you just have to be there, then that's good. It has a mutual win-win effect.
Oh, I'm loving this. I feel like I'm having a good old chat with an old mate. This is so we've got like quite a few people are on here, and they're all resonating with you. So I think it's something that we need at the moment. I really do. So your book again.
Yes. 2 ears, 1 mouth, and a big heart. Yeah. And then the tag is conversations to amplify and inspire. And one of the things that it does is not only share those stories, but it gives you actions and prompts to think what are your values and what's important to you, and what are the steps you could take to improve your own life and maybe the life of someone else.
Yeah, what was it you were saying to me about the bicycle, and there were you?
Yes, Bicycles for Humanity.
Yeah.
So one of the CEO came to an event that we ran, and she is a coach. But when we got talking, she had a passion for Bicycles for Humanity, which has been running for 10 years. The story's told in my book. And they take recycled bicycles, broken down bikes or whatever, and they send them in a shipping container to Africa. And then the container is used as a workshop. And then the bikes people are taught to mend the bikes, and then the bikes are used by locals to go off to work or water or whatever. What happened just very recently is that Andy Guild and one of the other people from my event, Andrew Wilson, who works for a solar energy company, got together, and Andrew had old panels. So they arranged for the old solar panels to be shipped to Africa as well to help solar power the bikes. So, that was when we network or when we have conversations, there's such a ripple effect, and we don't sometimes know what that is because we're talking to one person. But like today, I'm talking to you, but there's probably 100 people or maybe more that are listening to us, and that might strike a chord with them. They want to do something, that they want to make a change. And so the conversation is how they'll reach the people that they need to reach.
Yeah, and look, I mean, it's all well and good to say, like, have conversations, and we're talking about conversations, relationships, but it takes confidence to be able to, because a lot of people want to do this, and there's so many people that are watching that don't get out and don't do. I'm guilty myself. Like, quite often, like I'm a crazy busy lady, but there's opportunities where I can go and to networking breakfasts and lunches and things like that. But sometimes, not necessarily for me so much, it's finding the time, but for other people that maybe aren't that confident in a group. So how would you have someone pluck up the courage to start a conversation?
Well, at the moment, I'm actually writing an online course about that. So that's one of the good things about COVID. You get all those things done that you've been thinking about for ages. But I would say that some people, and people do find networking daunting and they find it uncomfortable. But it is a learned skill. And if you think about it, from the moment you get up in the morning, you talk to somebody, or hopefully you get the opportunity to talk to someone. And pre-COVID, you might talk to them in a schoolyard, or you might talk to them at the gym. When you're networking, exactly the same. You're just having conversations and being interested and curious about other people. And I think that's part of the key. People who are introverted and are very quiet actually are fantastic networkers because they listen. They only have to have the right questions, and then they can learn a lot without having to say a great deal. And so I just believe that it is worth putting yourself in that uncomfortable position, and that you can learn to get over it. There are strategies that you can learn. And one of them that I think is really useful is if you go to an event and you go into a room in the old days, is to think you're the host. Take it off yourself and try to make someone else feel comfortable. And we were at a funding network event, and I went with my husband. And sometimes when you go with someone that there is a tendency to stay together. But I told myself that I would speak to 3 people that I didn't know. And I went over to a lady who was standing by herself looking really uncomfortable. And I said, "Hello, I'm Kerryn Powell." She said, "Oh, thank you so much for coming to speak to me." And you just have to just reach out, because if other people feel uncomfortable too, and they'll be really grateful if you try to make them feel more comfortable.
Yeah, you could literally just change someone, literally be sat there in the corner. I had an experience a couple of years ago. I was going to go on stage and speak and present, and I was extremely anxious and nervous. And it just took one person. I've met this person really, but she just came up to me and she put her hand on, I didn't say anything. I'd never met her. She walked up, put her hand on my knee, looked at me, and she said, "Honey, everything's going to be okay." And I wanted to cry, because I was just like, oh my God, somebody's actually saw me. But It just takes, she didn't have to do that. But I think she must have done what you just suggested, and that is just go and find a person in the room that you can connect with, or just at least try and start to have a conversation.
If you just put yourself in that other person's shoes, that they're in a strange environment too. And, I didn't always find it easy. I think when I was a child, I used to talk a lot. But then when I became a business owner, I remember going to a business breakfast, and there were 400 people there, and it was just when I'd started my business. And I took my husband with me because I was too nervous to go by myself. And it was ridiculous, because I'd been a teacher, I'd spoken in classrooms, I'd run a craft market, I'd taken groups overseas. I had no need to be nervous, but I was. And everybody feels that way. So it's quite normal to feel uncomfortable. So
yeah, I mean, I think another reason that, like, a lot of people shy away from, I know that one of the reasons I sometimes shy away from going to typical networking events is because I don't want to be sold to.
Yeah. It's all about having the right conversations. And we find that we don't really sell at the events that I run, because people are just there because they're curious and interested, and they might come for sales, but they end up staying because of the relationships that they build and the quality conversations that help them build their business, because they share the ups and the downs and the challenges and that sort of thing. So nobody likes to be sold to.
No. And, like, most of the time, if you're going networking and you are in business, of course, you're going to be expecting so that you can share your business. It's just the way in which you do it. And if you're there and you're the person that's going up and you're trying to, ram your stuff down people's throat, it can be quite, it's exhausting for the person doing it, but also for the person receiving it. So
I think that's where it comes back to, is how can I help? rather than what's in it for me. It's about how can I help this person solve their problem. And if you come with that heart feeling of trying to help somebody, it takes away a lot of that sales behavior.
And this is not a plug, people, but I'm in all seriousness, because I literally was the last minute ring-in interviewer. I genuinely don't know what your events are. I'm interested. I'm actually genuinely interested, because I'd love to know.
Okay, so my business name is Your Time Matters, and it goes by the short name of YTM Business Networking. So we run 4 different formats because it keeps it interesting and it keeps the conversations different every month. And we have dinners and we have learning sessions. Because I was a teacher, there's always professional development. That's a key part of what we do. And then we have interactive workshops so that we someone might come along and be talking about authenticity or who are you really, and then we break into groups and perhaps look at each other's website or understand whether we're being congruent. So yeah, it's a different form of networking, but it's a very safe and welcoming sort of environment. And I think that's the teacher part in me too, is to help make people feel comfortable in a space that's sometimes not very comfortable.
Well, I mean, how often have you got into business with someone? Or it works for everything, like not just like you've got a client and you kind of go, oh gosh, I wish I'd done my homework, or I wish I knew then what I know now. And then, like you've got this relationship, and it's a way, I suppose, what you're facilitating is a way for people to get to know each other, because not all people should do, just because you have a purchaser and a seller, it doesn't necessarily mean that those two are perfectly aligned.
No, well, there's a few things there. One is that when I talk to you, I might not be your client, but you might have somebody who is. So it's talking past that person. So it's that conduit sort of thing. But it's also that networking is really only a start. There's many layers to building a relationship. And so, and also networking's about relationships and about connection. And that could be to find out whether your idea is worth pursuing, or whether someone's interested in what you sell. It doesn't have to be about a sales thing. It can be very much a market research, exploratory sort of system to see whether someone would want to buy your what you offer.
Or literally not surrounding yourself with yes men, that your staff and the people that are always telling you, and the people that love you and encourage you, like, oh, that's amazing, but you go and take it to you could ask, like, you get some good quality advice.
Absolutely. But you can also find that when you go out with your friends or your family, they're not that interested. But all the people in the room are all building a business and they all are interested. So you're talking a common language, and everyone's prepared to share their challenges once they get to feel trusted and whatever. And just today we had a lunch and one of the people attending's just started a business, and the conversation that came from 2 experienced business owners to the back to this new business owner was just gold, and giving us some ideas and saying how, problems will, opportunities, and structure your day this way, and don't worry if this happens, and just, those sorts of things we can learn from people who've already been on that path is valuable.
Well, so where are you located? Is it a national thing that you do, or are you located? Is it just locational? Is it just here, or?
Currently it's online. So we've had someone call in from Toronto and Brisbane and Adelaide. And I think, that's another thing that's come from COVID, because I would have always said, no, it has to be face-to-face in Melbourne, in Brighton, although I would like to be in other states. But I think going forward it will be online as well, because we can work with somebody anywhere now. And it's proven.
Yeah. Oh my God, I love it. And when people are asking questions, like, is it a national event? So it sounds. I want to come. I want to come to the event. I want in. I've got FOMO.
Well, we'd love to have you at any stage. So yeah.
Honestly, I'm not even just saying it. Honestly, I wouldn't even say it if I think that most people who know me know that I don't say something unless I mean it, and I'm genuinely interested in what you do. So I'm really grateful for you coming and taking your time out of your day to come and share that with us and everybody in the Obsessed Hub. If anybody would like to know more about Kerryn Powell and what she does, we will make sure that we've got some links and stuff in the comments, and we'll be on the YouTube, and we'll put it on Instagram. And yeah, we can definitely set it up so that you can stalk Kerryn. Thank you so much for joining us today, Kerryn. I really appreciate it.
Thanks a lot. I appreciate your time too. And you can come speed networking with us next week if you'd like to. We're going to do it online.
Lock it in, Eddie.
Thank you.
You're welcome. We'll see you soon. Thanks, Kerryn.
Bye.